will be watching Let Me Explain Studios. I know that not every day I do these things, but today there will be something. Let's go to the video. Over here. No, not there. Here. Sorry guys, be right back. And I'm back. Okay. Which one? This one. The mouse accident. The one that's the screen recorder on. We're gonna watch this one and then the two of daycare stories. So let's hop on. And I'm back, and the ad's gone.
This is Pablo. Leave a message.
Oh, hey, Pablo, it's Henry. Listen, I'm kind of having one of those existential crises right now, and I could really use a legitimizing second opinion here. How are we still in a job? If no one in this timeline has a mouth, then why exactly is there a need for two fairies? And more so, doesn't this make this very difficult to tackle?
How are they even talking? That's what I want to know.
How are we still in a job? If no one in this timeline has a mouth, then why exactly is there a need for two fairies? And more so, doesn't this make this very difficult to tackle any mouth-related topics in this world? I just don't know. It just feels like a big oversight on the part of the creator. Anyways, call me back. Please. Bye.
Hello, my geeks and peeps, my explainers and entertainers, my little oodle-lollies, Rebecca Parham here. You've read the title, you know what we're talking about, and I bet you're all saying to yourself, oh, Becca's got herself in a real pickle now. How's she gonna tell a story about her mouth when she doesn't have one? Shush. Chill out, I got this. There you go, problem solved. Anytime I gotta show you a mouth, it's Post-its to the rescue. Alright, enough of that. Let's move on. Injuries, accidents, life-altering wounds that scar us physically and emotionally. Yeah, they make great stories, don't they? And don't we just love telling them? Dude, you want to see my scar? Got attacked by a mountain lion. Fought it off with my bare hands. That's his appendectomy scar. Mom! Honestly, I've been rather fortunate. I haven't injured myself too many times in life. I mean, my dad accidentally pulled my arm out of my socket when I was 6. I got hit in the face with a softball when I was in middle school and had a shiner for a week. I slipped in water in high school and tore cartilage in my knee. A girl in theater dropped a heavy set piece on my foot and I had to do the rest of the shows with only one shoe on. I broke my toe banging it on a platform trying to get off stage. You know, maybe I'm more accident prone than I thought. I wonder how much football helmets cost. But my big injury story that I always tell people happened when I was very young. And it involves my teeth. I personally don't remember it at all, but my sister says she has a traumatizingly clear memory of it. That, and of course my parents were there for it. Actual content warning here, this story might get just a wee bit graphic because, you know me, I've never been averse to a little bit of blood. Or a gallon or two. For the brave soul still watching, let's get this show on the road. When I was about 3 years old, Dad wanted to have a play fort built in the backyard for me and my sister. He called over a family friend who happened to be a carpenter so they could drop some.
Like you literally could just draw a mouth on the carpenter and you just did a full beard. Why?
Plans and discuss how big it should be and where to put it. Mom wasn't home at the time, so to keep an eye on me and my sister, Dad let us run around the backyard while he and the carpenter talked things over. So in our backyard we had a porch, and by the law of the South, if y'all have a porch, you gotta have a porch swing. Which we did, though it wasn't a very good one. Dad was keeping a watchful eye on us, but as any parent will tell you, the worst things always happen when you turn your back for just a moment. And when Dad wasn't looking, I managed to climb up on this porch swing. I stood up on it, and I guess in my 3-year-old mind, I thought I was on one of those playground spring horses, so I began rocking it back and forth. And apparently, I was not holding back. Your girl was chasing bandits in the Wild West somewhere, I don't know. Now, remember how I said this wasn't a very good porch swing? Well, good porch swings are designed so they can't flip over. But this one, well... Dad heard my screams and he ran over in a panic. He lifted me up off the ground, and there was nothing but blood. I had bitten through my top lip, which left this handsome little scar later, and the force of the fall had pushed my front teeth back and up into my head. Without a moment to lose, Dad grabbed me and Rachel, threw us into the back of the car, and sped off to the hospital. Rachel sat next to me the whole ride, holding my head back so I wouldn't bleed on everything, and being only 5 years old herself, naturally she was freaking out, and Dad was even more distraught, feeling like the worst father in the world. But as he quietly panicked to himself, all of a sudden he heard from the back seat, "A McDonald had a farm, E-I-E-I-O, and on this farm he had a car, E-I-E-I-O."
Really?
Well, I guess that's what you call more rebound than a kickball. No, I don't think Dad appreciated the musical number. When we got to the hospital, the doctors ended up having to push my teeth back into their original position, but these teeth were pretty much destroyed. Oh, and when Mom showed up to the hospital, she said Dad was covered in blood and looked like that he'd lost a fight with an angry cat. Ah, poor Dad. There wasn't anything more that the doctors could do at the hospital, but we still had to wait 2 weeks for me to heal before I could see a dentist. And what the dentist ended up having to do was give my front 2 teeth a root canal and then fill it with a compound so it would stay in my head until my permanent teeth were ready to come in. You know, I'm actually really glad that I don't remember any of this. I'm already insane in the membrane enough as it is. Who knows how bad I'd be today if I had to carry around this childhood trauma with me. The whole ordeal had basically killed my front 2 teeth, and they turned yellow. Also, the next tooth over needed a half-metal crown on the back of it, and given that teeth are translucent, that made the tooth look green. So yeah, for the next few years of my childhood, I was walking around with yellow and green teeth. Just look at this jacked up mouth of mine. I think I had these teeth until I was about 6 or 7, and as you can imagine, such a blow to the face not only messed up my baby teeth, but my permanent teeth came in wonky as well. In fact, when I went to the orthodontist to get braces and
Aw, poor one. But why, when the picture of when you said 6 or 7, why did you have short hair? Are you a boy or are you a girl?
middle school, she discovered I had 4 permanent teeth that were supposed to come in, but were stuck up in my gums. I had to get teeth removed so they could come in. My mouth was a train wreck. Thankfully, I think I've finally got these chompers under control. They ain't perfect, but who could blame them after going through such misery? It's okay, teeth. You're good enough. That's why I never animate you. And for those of you wondering, yes, my dad did eventually get that play fort built. I'd have thought he
He is literally crazy if he still did the playbook. It's crazy.
think twice about letting his clumsy daughter up in high places, but none of the parent children ever fell out of that fort. I guess I set a pretty good example of what not to do. You hear that, Mom? Your daughter's a trailblazer. Hey, Explainers, just wanted to say thanks to Eddie Boley for lending his voice as the Tooth Fairy in the opening skit. I'll leave a link to his channel in the description. I genuinely love his stuff, so go check him out. I also want to say a big thank you to my longtime friend Megan Mayer for storyboarding a segment on this video. I'm really excited about this. She's going to be periodically jumping in on videos.
Okay, guys, this is the first time I did a long video, but we're going into another video. Time for the first daycare story. Where is it? Is it down or up? I think it's up. Yeah, up. For sure up. Yeah, this is the one. The one that's the screen recorder is on. I just like to keep it here.
my geeks and peeps, my explainers and entertainers, my little oodle-lollies. Rebecca Parham here. So, did you know I was a daycare kid? Probably not, because I've never mentioned it before. Makes sense. Working parents and leaving one's infant at home alone is generally considered...
I'm back, guys. Sorry for that thing.
...at home alone is generally considered problematic. Now, I know it might be hard to believe, but I haven't always been the pinnacle of refinement and maturity that you see before
Why are your legs hairy?
you today. No. As a kid, I was a bit of a rascal. For example, the box story. Now, at this daycare, we had a big playroom, and in this playroom, there was a dark little alcove where custodial stuff and equipment was kept all the time, and one morning during playtime, I noticed someone had left a large box there. Big enough for a child to hide behind. Now, there's a concept that I call kid logic, and it's basically just a name for that randomness that kids possess, or the absurdity that is their reasoning sometimes. For example, when I saw that box, that's when my kid logic kicked in, and I said, I'm gonna hide behind that box for as long as possible and see what happens. This is a great idea. So when the adults weren't looking, I slunk behind the box and crouched down, hiding myself entirely. I must have stayed there for half an hour before playtime ended, and they ushered all the kids away to a different room for a new activity. And funny enough, the adults were none the wiser I was gone. I've beat the system. Now this is what gets me. It took an hour of me hiding before an adult came back to the room and visibly began looking around for something. Couldn't imagine what it might be. Now where did I leave that small child? Must be around here someplace. I peeked my head up over the edge of the box to watch, but that proved to be my undoing. I was spotted. I've been compromised. I got in big trouble for that, of course. I was clearly not good at getting away with things when I was a kid, as you'll see in the next story. Now, one time at this daycare, they brought in a whiteboard, and you were only allowed to draw on it with adult supervision. Okay, I won't draw on the board. Instead, I stole a green dry erase marker when no one was looking and proceeded to decorate my face. Hey, listen, I didn't break the rules. They specifically said don't draw on the board. They said nothing about my face. I put the marker back and walked away, but was promptly spotted by an adult. Becca, did you do this to yourself? No. Did somebody do this to you? Yes. Who did it? Oh, sheesh, I hadn't thought I had that far. And I honestly didn't even think to blame another kid. Instead, that good old kid logic kicked in, and I came up with the most foolproof story that was sure to get my hide out of trouble. I was minding my own business looking for something to play with, and then the markers came over and marked on my face. Nailed it. I will never understand how that daycare worker kept a straight face, but off to timeout I went. So, what are you in for? Disrupting the status quo? Whoa, I stuck gum up my nose. Something I haven't mentioned yet is that my sister Rachel also went to this daycare, and because she's 2 years older than me, she got to be in the Big Kids program called the Superstars. And I was so jealous that I took to calling them the Stupid Stars. Extra crispy on that burn there, little Becca. But one thing that will always be a significant memory to me is the day I discovered that the Superstars had a Nintendo. Better yet, they had Super Mario Brothers. And that, my little oodle-ollies, was the first time I ever saw a console video game. I thought I was looking at magic. And that became the only thing I ever wanted to do at playtime was go over to the big kid area and watch them play Super Mario Brothers. Don't you dare tell me that gamers aren't real entertainers. I was watching people play video games long before the Appliers and Septiceyes and Deepies of the world made it a thing. But when playtime was over, the daycare staff had to pry me away, kicking and screaming from that TV set. One day, however, I came up with a brilliant idea. When they pulled me away from the big kids' corner and sat me down with the other little kids, I proceeded to scream and cry that I miss my big sister, and nothing was gonna console me except being allowed to be with her in the big kid area. I guess the adults didn't know what else to do, so they actually let me go back over. Holy Crayola, that actually worked. Sure enough, I made a beeline for the Nintendo. Screw you, sis, I got video games to observe. It didn't take long for an adult to catch on, and I was eventually pulled away again. When I tried the same shtick, they gently said, "Becca, you say you miss your sister, but every time you go over there, you just watch them play video games." Okay, maybe they had me there. Not gonna lie, that's a pretty solid accusation.
All right, grown-up, I'll concede to you this time. But one day I'll be grown-up, and I'll watch all the video games I want.
Don't you mean play them?
No.
Now I've saved the best story for last. Even when I started kindergarten, there was no escaping this daycare, because one of the services they provided was picking up children from my elementary school and taking them back to the daycare where the parents could pick them up later. So every day, I didn't get picked up by a parent or get on a normal yellow school bus. I waited for a big white van. That sounds rather nefarious now that I say it out loud. But yeah, Rachel and I would wait for the van, pile in with the other kids, and go wait to get picked up at the daycare. And this was a routine my kindergarten teacher knew. She was a very good teacher and kept track of the way each of her students were supposed to go home. So she would make sure I got in that van. Well, I was getting a little bored of the routine.
Guys, I'll just pause the video. Be right back, okay? Guys, I'm back. That's why I paused the video.
And here's good old kid logic again, because many of my classmates would get to walk home, and for some reason, I decided that was the cool thing to do. I aspired to walk home. But that wasn't gonna happen with Miss Responsibility Pants botching my whole operation. So like the little devil I was, I waited until we had a substitute teacher. Alright, here's your evil genius learner's permit, kiddo. When school ended that day, instead of getting into the daycare van, I hid behind a brick pillar and waited for the van to leave without me. Funny how my sister never said anything. She must have been like, alright, I guess she died. As soon as the van left, I headed off on foot. My house was within walking distance, only about a mile away, but I began to think as I walked that no one was actually going to be at the house, and I had no way of getting inside. Probably should have thought of that before. So instead of walking home, I made the executive decision to walk to the daycare instead. Now, I knew what I was doing was against the rules, because every single time I saw a white vehicle of any sort coming in the distance, I would duck behind a tree or bush as fast as I could. When I was so close that I could see the daycare up ahead, I noticed what was most definitely a white van approaching, and the only tree immediately available was thinner than me. So not only was this tree already insufficient at hiding me, but when I jumped behind it, I didn't think to put the tree between me and the line of sight of the van. So when the daycare staff approached, this is what they saw. I'm revoking that evil genius learner's permit. They stopped the van, made me get inside, and guess who I found in the back seat? The snitch that ratted me out. My own sister. How could you? We were...
Yeah, guys, I'm just doing something in the phone. Be right back. Guys, I'm back. I was just doing something.
Sister.
How could you? We were brothers, you and I.
Wait.
It's sisters.
And that is just a handful of examples of what a little monster I was. I talked to my sister about this script and she came up with even more stories about this daycare, so if you guys like this video, then maybe there'll be another one in the future. Who knows? Alright,
Okay, here's the second one. The one that the screen recorder's on. I'm gonna go in it. It's the number 2.
كمان سرح على امازون دوت اي جي لقى الخلاط اللي بيدور عليه.
Okay, I'm back.
Oh, good evening, my geeks and peeps, my explainers and entertainers, my little oodalolly. Just in time for tea. You know, the last time we were sitting at my dining room table, we were talking about
That guy is my mom.
who doesn't love a good sequel. Let's jump back to the good old days of making daycare staff miserable. If you remember that last video, you'll remember that my sister Rachel and I went to this daycare together. She was with the big kids, I was with the little kids. But the two of us had been going to this particular daycare literally from infancy. So the staff knew us, and we both had reputations. Rachel's nickname at this place was Rocky because she would start fights with older kids who were being mean. While well, when I was about 18 months, I would go up to other kids just learning how to walk and push them over, laughing maniacally. Listen, I got my devil tree out early. You best be thankful that I'm a good witch of the woods now. A typical day of daycare for the...
My back, I just need to put something and take the phone to somewhere else. So be right back. I'm back.
Off by a parent, and the experience was very different depending on which parent dropped us off. See, Rachel and I didn't like that our parents were leaving us. Frankly, we weren't that thrilled being left at daycare to begin with. But we knew to keep that sentiment to ourselves whenever Mom dropped us off. She was incredibly no-nonsense, and our tears and screams would do nothing to sway her. She'd just drop us off and sashay herself out the front door without looking back. So we learned that her heartstrings couldn't be played on. But if Dad was dropping us off... There's a game that both kids and adults play. When little kids play it, it's called dig in a random spot and hopefully find something. When adults play it, it's called Minecraft. Digging in dirt or sand to a kid, it's magical. Mostly because of the slim chance that you might actually find something. But there were two main things that we were all digging for as kids. Say it with me, buried treasure and dinosaur bones. Which makes archaeologists and paleontologists adults that never outgrew it. I caused some major property damage at daycare once by digging. You want to hear about it? Of course you do. One day, two kids and I were playing outside in a secluded, shady part of the playground around the back of the building. A spot conveniently difficult for the adults to supervise. The three of us were happily digging away in the dirt when, gasp, we actually found something! That's the best thing about the positivity and the optimism of kids. It doesn't matter what you found while playing this game, you still felt like Indiana Jones. And the three of us were thrilled that we had unearthed the rare and elusive water pipe. It belongs in a museum! But the moment the three of us walked away for just a second, leaving our dig site unprotected, a random boy saw the exposed pipe in the ground, picked up a big rock, and... he took all the blame. And they had to shut down the water at the daycare for a few days to get it fixed. However, this next story, I absolutely got caught in the act, and I'm pretty sure it's one of those universal childhood experiences. 'Tis a dangerous and often hilarious thing the first time a child figures out that hair is meant to be cut, and scissors are meant for cutting. We all put two and two together real fast, eyeballing those craft scissors in our school supplies. There was only one incident I tried to cut my own hair as a kid, and it was at daycare. Of course, it happened during arts and crafts. I don't even remember what we were making, but it involved scissors, and the person who was supposed to be watching us made the fatal error of looking away for just a second, because that was all the time I needed. I grabbed a piece of my hair, raised the scissors up, and... Rebecca! Don't you even think of... The daycare worker took me to the staff room to sit in timeout with her. A wise thing, not leaving me alone to my own devices. She sat at her desk writing down this little incident in my report card. Snitch. While I had to sit in a chair and not move. But every time another staff member walked in, this lady would say something like, "Hey, do you want to see what happens when Rebecca tries to cut her own hair?" Oh! Okay, Janet, I don't recall asking your opinion on my hairdressing skills, but if we're gonna start playing the shame game, I'm gonna let Kid Becca have the floor.
You think my hair's bad, but you paid someone money to make you look like that. If you let me do your hair, it would at least be an improvement.
I don't get paid enough for this.
And I don't get paid anything to tolerate you, but here we are.
Hello, Mrs. Parham. Yes, it's Rebecca again.
Mom, I saved you money on my next haircut.
Okay, I didn't actually say any of that. But man, I wish I was a fire-breathing roast lord back in the day. Then maybe I would have become an actual stand-up comedian instead of an animator pretending to be one. Did you hear the one about crypto? So as I've said before, Rachel was in a different group than me and we had different activities, so we didn't always get to hang out with each other. But one day, while I was innocently playing with my fellow little kids, an adult plucked me away from whatever I was doing and sat me at a table with Rachel far away from the rest of her group. It was unmistakable she had purposely been isolated from the other kids.
All right, what did you do? You haven't confessed, have you? Demand an attorney, they can't prove anything.
What actually happened was the staff had planned an activity where each kid was given a glob of peanut butter that they could sculpt into whatever they wanted. And the best part was that they would eventually get to eat their creations. The problem was, ever since childhood, Rachel has been deathly allergic to peanuts. Seriously, it's a 911 call every single time. She's that sensitive. I once opened a particularly potent jar of peanut butter, closed it after just a few seconds, and when Rachel walked through that area a minute later, her eye began to swell. So naturally, Rachel was not going to be allowed to play with the world's deadliest substance to her. Instead, they gave her some Play-Doh and made me come play with her so she wouldn't be alone. Wow, that sounds like such a wholesome sisterly moment, huh? Am I right? Right? Kid Becca, it's a wholesome sisterly moment, right?
Officer, I've never met this girl before in my life. Also, I should have peanut butter. Hey! Don't you try to drag me down with you.
Mind you, I did sit there the whole time playing with Rachel, just very angrily. But when the activity was over and Rachel was far away, they eventually gave me a little spoonful of peanut butter for my trouble. But oh my god, what an absolute brat, right? Never mind that it's a life or death situation where you could have one less sister by the end of the day. But hey, listen, I was not always inconsiderate of my sister. Sometimes I was very helpful. You all know about Smarties, right? Not the good kind, the American kind. The bishop on the chessboard of loser candy. I will hear no arguments to the alternative. Well, this daycare was no stranger to giving out this candy as the occasional treat, and one day Rachel apparently had gotten her hands on a pack of them. The two of us were in nap time together when she rolled over and whispered, Hey Becca, guess what?
What?
I got a Smartie stuck up my nose and I can't get it out. Now, as a bright young child with plenty of potential to eventually maybe one day be smart, I had a perfect plan of attack for the occasion.
I got a stick.
We all stuffed random things into our pockets as kids, and apparently I had a stick that day.
Whatever you do, don't move.
I shoved the stick up Rachel's nose to try and get the Smartie out. And as one would imagine, a stick is not the most effective nor sanitary tool for such a job. So all I really accomplished was pushing it further up her nose.
Ah! Ow! This may turn into brain surgery soon.
Just as I thought the Smartie could go no further up Rachel's nose, a daycare staff member walked by and was treated to this cheery sight. Hey, wouldn't you know it, that little extra push caused it to dislodge and fall down the back of Rachel's throat.
Well, there you go. Crisis averted.
You know, my dad used to tell people that I was smart enough to be a doctor. I think he was lying. Alright, explainers, just one more thing.
Everyone can be a doctor, but just for you, not for noses. Yeah, not for noses.
There are only a couple days left to pre-order the Witch Becca doll and the new pen set. These are very limited edition items. We will not be making them again, so link to the store in the description below. Alright, explainers and entertainers, I appreciate you having some late night
That is all we are going to be walking today. I'm gonna put your YouTube channel in the description below. Bye!